I'm a relatively mild-mannered man. I went to school and got that fancy education for a reason, because when you find your passion and when you have a purpose in your passion, then amazing things start to transform.
One of the great poets of our time, he espoused so prophetically. He said, paraphrasing, he said, you got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them. You got to know when to walk away. And you got to know when to run. That great poet, people, if you don't know, you need to know. The great poet Kenny Rogers espoused those prophetic words that everyone can live by. Again, you got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to walk away. And you got to know when to run. The prophetic poet went further. He didn't just stop there. He said, never count your money while sitting at the table, because there will be time enough to count them when the dealing's done. If you don't understand how profound the great poet Kenny Rogers is in reciting what is sort of a life's philosophical guideposts, I want you to tune into this show, because I'm going to explain to you what that means and how that plays out in your life, knowing when to hold them and knowing when to fold them. What I want to talk about today, no, not what I want to talk about, what I am going to talk about today is strategic default. See, some people think that foreclosures are bad. Some people believe that when you lose property, it's a bad thing. But see, everything that looks good ain't good for you. I mean, ice cream is good for you. I'm saying I'm going to get a sundae at some point during this day. I am going to have my typical weekend butter pecan sundae. I'm going to have that, Titus. But I'm saying everything that looks good, everything that tastes good ain't good for you. See, we were taught that real estate is good. We were taught that property is good. We were taught that properties are assets. But all assets don't remain assets. See, sometimes people buy property and what started off as good turns bad. And in those situations, people, you got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them. And you best to know when to walk away. And then sometimes you better learn how to run. See, what rich folk know that poor folk don't know is that all property ain't good for you. And what rich folk do that poor folk don't do is not only plan to obtain assets, they also strategize on when to let go of assets. I'm going to back up and say that one more time. I'm going to put it a different way. In order to be successful in real estate investment, you not only need to understand how to acquire an asset, you also need to perfect the skill. You need to gather the knowledge of when to let go of an asset. You got to know when to sell. Listen, you got to know when to walk away. Hold on. See, sometimes you can't sell because you get caught what I call holding. In 2009, Steve Fitch, when the real estate market took a dive, a lot of people's finances took a dive. But people who were really astute in the game, people who understood the great poet Kenny Rogers, people who got that you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them, and they got the distinction between walking away and knowing when to run. They got that when the 2009 financial crisis occurred and what was an asset became a depleting, a weight on our back, a gorilla on our back. They understood how to walk away. Steve, they even understood how to run. See, what's killing our community is not just what we don't have. A lot of what is killing our community and killing our pocketbooks is what we're holding on to. See, it's one thing not to have something. The beauty of not having is that you're at zero. And whenever you're at zero, you have an opportunity because you have a full glass. See, there's no liquid, there's no water, there's no sustenance, there's nothing in your glass. all you have is opportunity. But when you have poison in the glass, all you have is death. See, people are holding on to what I call toxic assets. People, poor people, black and brown people, you are holding on to real estate. I'm going to take it one step further because people may need to hear this, and some people on Facebook land are listening to me, and I oftentimes talk about relationships. So I don't want to take the conversation from real estate and your wealth and your finances, but I have to interject in this very moment because I know some people are listening to me. See, sometimes what you're holding on to in relationships are toxic. See, we think that it is more toxic to not be or not have than it is to have. But sometimes what you have is hurting you more than what you don't have. See, you're holding on to real estate that you need to let go. But people don't know how to let go of real estate, like relationships, like life, like burdens. We're holding on. So today's show topic is a strategic default. If you have real estate that you are subsidizing, that in the short term or the near term or the midterm, you cannot see not having to subsidize that real estate. If you're holding on to that, if you're taking money out of your family fund, and you're pitching in $200-$300 a month to hold up real estate because you don't want your credit bad, you're probably making a bad decision. You may need to talk to me. You got to know what a strategic default is. See, a strategic default is when you decide that you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and so then you decide you're not going to pay another red cent on that property, and you're willing to accept the consequences of strategically defaulting. Rich people, see, we read the news and we take the media, right? And they'll say, oh, look at 50 Cent. He had to file bankruptcy. He was sued for $5 million and a judgment was entered against 50 Cent and he had to file for bankruptcy. And then 50 Cent comes out and 50 Cent says, well, you know, I really don't own all of those cars and I really don't own all of those houses and I really don't have as much money as I profess to have. And you all bought it. People start talking, oh, 50 Cent is fronting. 50 Cent ain't as rich as he pretends to be. And I didn't buy a word of it. I believe that 50 Cent is richer than he claims to be because he's a smart guy. See, poor folk like to pretend they have stuff. Rich folk like to pretend they don't have anything. 50 Cent didn't make it to be 50 cents because he's stupid. Just because you see somebody filing bankruptcy doesn't mean they're broke. Only poor folk file bankruptcy when they're broke. Rich folk file bankruptcy when it is strategically sound to file bankruptcy. It doesn't mean that they're broke. It means that they're maximizing the opportunity. It means that they've already peaked. And then they see a decline, and then they file bankruptcy. You don't file bankruptcy when you're at the bottom. You file bankruptcy when you're at the top. A strategic default. Many strategic defaults occurred in Miami. They talked about it. Google it. A lot of wealthy people walked away from real estate because they got that the real estate had lost its value. It was a depreciating asset almost. That it would take 5-10 years or who knows before this real estate obtained its value. So, hey, that was the perfect time. They defaulted. Why am I talking about a strategic default? Am I telling you all to go out and just stop paying mortgage payments? No. But what I am telling you is that there is a time. I'm going to say it one more time for all who are just jumping in. The great poet Kenny Rogers already espoused it. You got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them. You got to know when to walk away. And you got to know when to run, people. Stop being afraid to stop paying your credit card bills. Oh my God, did an attorney just say that? Is an attorney right now talking about not paying people? I'm going to give you an example. And I'm sorry, I'm wrong for this, but I'm going to give you no, I'm not wrong. I'm going to give you a personal example. I'm going to have an Oprah moment. And if you want to call in, please do so. 773-591-1690. Call in now, 773-591-1690. Also, if you need to phone me at my office, please do so. 708-991-7268. It's 708-991-7268. I'm about to give you an example. So I was doing some business with a major company. And so I was at the end of the life cycle, the current life cycle of doing business with this major company. Now, I just want you to know that I've spent tens of thousands of dollars, probably six figures. Yes, 591-1690. I've spent tens of thousands of dollars, if not $100,000 over the last 5 years with this company, right? So we've done business. So I'm restructuring my marketing mechanisms, so forth and so on. So I go to them and I try to strike a deal with them. I say, listen, this is what I need from you. I need A, B, and C. And, I need you to cut the price on this. I'm negotiating, people. I'm a businessman. I'm negotiating with these people. This is a major company. I spent a lot of money with this company. And my contract was about to end. So I'm at the end of my contract, and maybe it's $5,000, $6,000 left on this contract, right? So I strategically make a decision. I say to myself, well, this is my time to negotiate. I've done good business with them for many years. I want them to do good business with me. So I stop paying them. Please, people, don't say Attorney Fenton is telling people not to pay their bills. Please, people, don't say Attorney Fenton doesn't pay his bills. That's not true. I stopped paying them. Strategically, I stopped. And so we go back, and so they say, Attorney Fenton, my representative, she gives me a call. She says, Attorney Fenton, I just got word from accounting that you haven't paid your bill. I said, no. And so then I said, no. I said, well, let's talk about it. So another month goes by. She sends me an email. Attorney Fenton, we were just talking about, doing more business. Why haven't you paid your bill? I said, well, let's talk about the bill. So another month goes by. Here's the first second nugget I'm about to give you on a strategic default. If you decide to strategically default, if you decide to get in the water, you got to be prepared to go up to your neck in the water. If you decide to play big boy games, if you want to act like rich folk, you got to learn how to take pressure like rich folk. I'm saying if you start it, you better be ready to finish it. If you show up at somebody's house talking about you want to fight, you better be prepared for a scuffle, for a scrap, for a beat down. I'm just telling you. So I stopped paying them. So then finally they had their attorney contact me. This is the moment I'm waiting for. Now it's serious. They know I'm serious. I know they're serious. So their attorney contacts me. Attorney Fenton, my understanding is that you have a contract. It's coming to a close. You've done great business with us. What's the problem? You've always been a great client. I said, listen, this is what I'd like to do. I'd like to buy out the balance of my contract. Now, mind you, I've been paid about 3 or 4 months straight. They're like, Attorney Fenton. I said, I'd like to buy out the balance of my contract. He said, okay. He said, make me an offer. I said, I have $2,500 to buy out the balance of my contract. I'll send you a check tomorrow. Now, it's probably odd because I'm not paying my monthly payment, which is considerably less than $2,500. So they're probably over there thinking that I don't have any money. But what they don't get is that I'm strategic. I'm strategically defaulting. So he says, I'll take this. I'll talk to my client. I'll see what they say. So he sends it to the client. The client counter offers. The counter offer is $2,750. I said, great. I'll send you a check tomorrow. I saved myself a few $1,000s. I strategically defaulted. Don't go out and do what I do, people. I'm successful for a reason. Listen, calm down. Now, let's talk about strategically defaulting on real estate. A lady came in my office yesterday. Her son is listening now. I know he is because he says he listens every weekend. Sir, can you call in now? Sir, can you call in now? 773-591-1690. Call in now. You came in with your mother yesterday. So he came in with his mother yesterday and she owns a property. Now, she owns a property in a community in the south suburbs where property values have greatly diminished. Her current mortgage balance is $80,000. The value of the home is $30,000. Her son brings her in to talk to Attorney Fenton. He's like, I had to bring my mother in essentially to talk to you, Attorney Fenton, because she's not listening to me. I'm saying to my mother, she's 74 years old. She's having health problems. She may have been 78. She's 74 years old. She's having health problems. I'm telling her it doesn't make sense to continue making a mortgage payment because she'll never see the end of the day on this mortgage payment, and the property is not worth what she owes. I said, ma'am, listen to me. Your son is correct. Good sir, thanks for tuning in. You've certainly been taking notes. He said, Attorney Fenton, I've been listening to you for years. I said, you certainly have. I said, ma'am, I want you to understand something. All the money that you're paying to this mortgage company, you're not paying down a mortgage because you'll never see the light of the day on this mortgage. Because you got another 20, 25 years. You'll be 115 before it gets down. I said, ma'am, essentially what you are is a renter. People, I need you to hear what I'm trying to tell you. Listen, many of us think we are buying our home, and essentially what we are doing is renting our home. The property's only worth $30,000. She's 74 years of age. She can barely afford the mortgage. She'll never see it. And she's in poor health. Let's just be realistic here. I said, ma'am, essentially what you're doing is renting the property. Her son said, Mom, you know I don't want the house. His other two siblings, they're not in a position to take over the house. He's like, they probably wouldn't even pay the taxes. I made that up. But they probably wouldn't even pay the taxes. So I said, ma'am, do you love your home? She said, no. I said, are you just like content on staying there forever? She's like, no. I said, ma'am, this is not, then the son said this to me. I have to make a disclaimer. He said, Attorney Fenton, I need you to tell me what you would do. Oh, he shouldn't have said that. He made a mistake when he asked Attorney Fenton what he would do. I said, listen, this is not legal advice. People, everybody listening, this is not legal advice. He asked, what would I do? This is not legal advice. I wouldn't pay another mortgage. If you were my mother, I would tell you to put every red dime that you pay toward that mortgage in your pocket. Mom, I want you to keep all that money. And ma'am, she said, well, are they going to put me out in the next 2 weeks? I was like, ma'am, they will not be putting you out in the next 2 weeks. There are laws in place. There's a process that must take place. And if you retain me as an example, then it's going to take even longer. But even without me, ma'am, you still have you probably have a year, 10, 12 months at least with representation, 18 months, 24 months. Nobody's putting you out anytime soon. So the $700, $800, $1,000 a month that you're spending on that property, if you stay there for the next 18 months, that's $18,000, ma'am. He was like, Mom, you can go to a nice assisted living facility and, or you can rent a 1-bedroom apartment or we can get you a studio and then you can just go. People, there's a time to strategically default. If you have a 2-unit and it's beating you down and the city of Chicago is fining you, if you're over there every other weekend, if you can't sleep at night, if you're stressed, if your hair is falling out, and you and your relationship with your wife is being hampered because of all this stress, it's a time that's, listen, the great poet Kenny Rogers espoused so prophetically, you got to know when to hold them. People, hear what I'm telling you. You got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them. You got to know when to walk away. And you got to know when to run. Our problem ain't what we don't have. Our problem oftentimes is what we're keeping. It's what we're holding on to. And it applies to relationships too. It applies to businesses too. It applies to bad real estate too. It's called a toxic asset. It applies to toxic assets too. But we're so caught up in being in a relationship and being in love, we won't let go. We're so caught up in, we have a 2-unit or a single family home or we have investment property, we won't let go. We're so caught up in that we had this job and we're making a few pennies and it's rough to get another job that we won't let go. You got to know how to let go. But there is a way to let go. See, the mistake that a lot of people make, they don't understand strategic default. See, it's not just default. I'm not telling you to just default. See, poor folk just default. We just default and mess up our credit. We just default and stress ourselves out. We just default and find ourselves in court and people taking stuff from us. There's a way to strategically default. Oh, yeah, that's higher level thinking. 50 cents, I don't believe that man is broke. I don't believe for 1 second 50 Cent can't write a $5 million check. Get out of here. He was about to strategically default. You don't have to like Donald Trump. I know what he is. You know what he is. But Donald Trump is right about one thing. Donald Trump ain't never filed bankruptcy. His companies have filed bankruptcy. Donald Trump was about to strategically default. They can't fool me. Now, poor folk, we're just defaulting. Oh, we just broke and we just don't have the money. Rich folk, they have the money. They just know they shouldn't pay the bill. That's different. That's a strategic default. Now, if you're strategically defaulting on real estate, you got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them. And you got to know when to walk away. And you got to know when to run. And you never count your money while sitting at the table. How does this apply to real estate? You don't just call the lender and hand them the keys when you're strategically defaulting. No. You don't necessarily pay the property taxes when you strategically default. No. Why not? I've had clients come in and they strategically default, but they were still paying the property taxes. I'm like, well, if you strategically defaulted and you decided that you're going in the water all the way up to your neck, if you're prepared to swim underwater to strategically default for you and your family's best financial interest, why are you paying the property taxes? They're like, well, if I don't know why I'm paying it. Well, you shouldn't be paying the property taxes if you strategically defaulted. Let the lender pick up the property taxes. Let them know that you're serious about this default. This is not legal advice. I don't want the disciplinary committee calling Attorney Finch talking about you're telling people not to pay their mortgage and their property taxes. That's nonsense. I'm giving you an example of how strategic defaults work. If you're strategically defaulting and you've decided to default on your loan, then paying the property taxes doesn't make sense. It's not legal advice. That's just an analysis. That's an assessment. Why? Because your mortgage company is going to pick up those property taxes. Why would they do that? Because they have a vested interest in making sure that the property taxes are paid. Because if the property taxes are sold at an auction, and then that person who purchased the taxes at the auction takes those taxes to deed, then they lose their first position. The mortgage company is never going to lose their first position over $5,000. Not when you owe them $100,000. That's a strategic default. Oh, yeah. Matter of fact, when the property taxes come due, I'm going to call the mortgage company and tell them I haven't paid the taxes either. You probably need to go check that out. Oh, yeah, that's a strategic default. And then I'm going to tell you, you're going to have to save all your money if that were me. Then I'm saying the next part of a strategic default is that you got to save some money. See, the mistake that a lot of people make is that they strategically default, but then they don't harvest. See, they don't count their money because they spend their money. You don't count your money at the table. There'll be time enough to count them, but you got to have some money to count when you strategically default. See, part of it with my strategic default, see, I had the money. When I strategically defaulted on my contract 3 weeks ago, Ernest Fenton had the money. They were like, how does this man not pay us these few dollars every month, but then all of a sudden he sends us a $2,750 check? I'm like, who are these fools dealing with? Who do they think I am? What about me made them think that I didn't know what I was doing? So anyhow, see, sometimes when it looks like a person is losing, they're actually winning. And sometimes when it looks like a person is winning, they're actually losing. See, people who look like they're losing, but they're actually winning, are sometimes people who are in foreclosure or filing bankruptcy. It looks like they're losing, but they're actually winning. And then there are people who look like they're winning, but they're actually losing. Let me give you an example of those people. Those people driving around in fancy cars, big body Benzes. Those are the people who have, I have 10 properties all around the city. Those are oftentimes the people who are losing. because they're looking good, but they ain't doing good. That's why folk who have the most money, those are the people who walk in coveralls and old dirty blue jeans. Look at my little dusty cap, my little Jeep outside. I don't know about me. Listen, if you're strategically defaulting on a piece of real estate, you don't just walk away from the real estate. Don't do that. You have to at some point pick up the phone and negotiate with the mortgage company, because I don't want you to default and mess your credit up even more than it is. See, we can take a small hit. In order to strategically default, you're going to have to weigh the risks against the reward. See, you're going to have to weigh the benefits from the burden. See, the burdens are, your credit is going to take a little hit, but you can recover from a 30 or 60 or 90-day late. Listen, if you're a business person, or if you're really concerned about your family's financial future, if you can't handle a little 50, 100-point hit to your credit, you ain't ready for this game. You should turn this off. The conversation I'm having is too big for you, because you think 100-point credit score swing is a doom. That's nothing. That's nothing. You got to play bigger than that. We can recover 100 points on your credit score. But what we're not going to do is give them $50,000 that we shouldn't have given them. See, what I believe in is that a bird in the hand beats two in the bush. I'll keep my cash. You take my score. Oh, yeah. I'll keep my cash. You take my score. And I'll get my score back later with a lot less cash than I kept. That's a win, people. You got to know how to win. See, people who strategically default they got to get in over their head. They're going to have to take a hit somewhere, but they're going to take a small hit, relatively speaking, to the great come up that they're going to experience. So, real estate. If you're strategically defaulting because this is a toxic asset, you're not making any money. It's underwater. The lender won't work with you. They won't give you a principal reduction. Strategically default. So then I'm going to call the lender on the phone, because now you got to man up. See, a strategic default doesn't mean you don't answer the call. Oh, I love to answer calls from creditors. If you want to play this game and win for you and your family and your future, you got to know how to answer the calls from creditors. I don't care if a creditor calls me. Never have. You got to get on the phone and you got to say, listen, I don't have the money. So what can we do? What can we do to make this work for us? I need your help. Oh, yeah, that's where you start. And if they won't reduce the principal, if they won't provide you a forbearance, that's okay. First thing I need you to do, I need you to protect all the other assets that you're not going to strategically default on. See, I need you to put all the other real estate in the land trust. I need you to put all your other real estate in the living trust. I need you to take your cash. I need you to get a living trust. I need you to start preparing for your strategic default. That's what rich people do. That's what 50 Cent did. Oh, yeah. 50 Cent wasn't broke. All garbage. I don't believe it. The man's too smart. I need you to protect your assets. I need you to do that. That's why we talk about that. And let's just say they won't work with you on loss mitigation. Then I need you to start negotiating. Fine. If you don't want to work with me, if you don't want to give me a principal reduction, how about you just take this property back? Because if you don't take this property back, I'm just telling you, not in a mean way. I need you to say it nice. I need you to come and bring it down. Don't be like me. I need you to say, listen, I can't pay it. That's just the truth. So if I can't have a principal reduction, I can't pay this mortgage. I can't keep doing it. It's hurting my family. I can't let this little tugboat bring down my ship. I can't let one house impact my entire family's financial future. We can't do that. That's the mistake we make. We let one little property disrupt our entire financial future because we're worried about 70 points or 100 points on our credit report. What good is credit going to do you when you're broke? Who's going to loan you money anyway when you're broke? Come on, man. So you can talk about a deed in lieu of foreclosure. How about I just sign this property back over to you? If you do a deed in lieu of foreclosure, you don't owe them anything. They don't owe you anything. How about we just end this relationship? I give this property back to you and I just move on. I just roll on off into the sunset. That's a deed in lieu of foreclosure. How about I just put this property on the market? How about when I get an offer for $40,000, you allow me to sell this property for $40,000, although I know I owe you $100,000, and then you forgive any deficiency. I need you to forgive the $60,000 difference that I owe you. That's called a deficiency. I don't want you coming after me for the $60,000. How about we do that and you allow me to short sell this property? How about you allow me, this is what I'm saying in the back of my mind. How about you allow you, now I'm saying it to you. How about you allow you to take care of the financial future of your family and stop getting emotional about a piece of brick, about some mortar, about this real estate investment. A real estate investment has no true meaning. The only true meaning of finances is take care of family. Finances simply mean take care of family. See, we're caught up in bricks and mortar and credit scores. None of that matters. None of that matters. I don't care about my credit score. All I care about is, can I take care of my family? If it means cutting my credit score to a 500, give me the 500, because that might be a win for me. Oh, man, come on. But y'all, you not hearing me? Are you all hearing me? I'm putting him on the line. He called in. Hold on 1 second, people. If you need to call my office to schedule an appointment, call 708-991-7268. It's 708-991-7268. Here's the young man. I'm about to bring Albert on the line. He came in with his mother yesterday, and I told him I was going to talk about this on air today, about a strategic default. Albert, what's happening?
How are you, Attorney Fenton?
I'm good. You called in, huh?
Yeah, all the time.
Oh, go ahead.
Yes, I want to thank you for the wonderful job you did with my mother yesterday. She's from old school. I call it old school Mississippi.
Yeah.
Stuck on stuff.
That's all right.
But she's saying,
yeah,
you lived in this house 50 years, you paid for it for 50 years, and you still owe more than you bought it for.
Yeah.
So it's time to jump out this plane and let the plane crash. At least
you'll live another day.
Skin up your knees, but at least you'll live.
Yeah. And, I got to give you big credit. Let's talk about you for a minute, Albert. You are the unsung hero that we don't talk enough about, and I appreciate you acknowledging me. But, brothers like you is what we need in our community, because you had the foresight, the gumption, and the diligence to take your mother by the hand. And his mother's not, she's having some physical some health challenges. So Albert literally is, am I saying too much, Albert? Can I share a little?
No, you can say everything you need to say.
Okay, so Albert literally had to pull up, 5-10 feet from our door to help his mother walk in. I mean, those are the health challenges that she's having. And Albert took his time, he took his money, he took his mother to my office to talk about this, to help his mother. And Albert, we don't have that. We need you, and it's not, in Albert, let me share this, and this is for the people who are listening. Albert, here it is. I have to do that for my mother. Your mother, Albert, has done her job. She fed into you, Albert, so that you are the man that you are. And so now it is your job to feed back into your mother. Your mother has taken the ship as far as it can go. Now it's our job to pick it up and move it forward. So, Albert, you're doing your job. You're saying, Mom, job well done. It's time to move on from this one, because it's just hurting you and it's going to hurt all of us. So let's just move on. And, man, big ups to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
that's what this world needs as black people. We need to help each other.
Yeah.
Okay? Because you live in a big house over here and over there. So what? That's you. You just a millionaire, but everybody else, the other 10 people in your family are starving.
Yeah.
And broke.
Yeah.
And
man.
selfish.
Brothers, I'm telling you, man, I'm going to tell you this, because you fed into me, but I didn't feed into you. You fed into me. Well, I guess I feed into you because you said you listen every Saturday and you appreciate it. But it makes me feel good to know that when I'm on air, brothers like you are listening and you actually responded. And here's the other thing. I brushed over it, but I got to say this. Albert, I said at the very least, I want your mother not to leave here with the healthcare power of attorney and a property power of attorney, especially given her age and her health condition. That's critical. I don't want you calling me 5 years from now, Albert, saying, oh, Attorney Fenton, I need guardianship. You know, I'm like, it's unnecessary. But Albert reached in his pocket. He said, no, how much of a deposit do I need to give you now? I said, Albert, just take this home, read it over, think about it. He said, no. How much of a deposit do I need to give you now? He reached in his pocket and he put the money on my desk, people. Black men, I got to give this message. Black men, we must step up. We got to take our father by the hand, our mother by the hand. We have to drive them to the attorney, drive them to the doctor. We have to reach in our pockets. We got to pick them up. We got to rake their leaves. We got to shovel their snow. Black men must step up. It is our time to carry the heavy load. Our parents have done their job. I thank you, Albert.
And I thank you because you're the guiding light that's keeping it going, okay? Without people like you giving us what we need, but we too busy getting our hair flipped and wigs on our head, walking around twisted, we got to start growing up and stop letting all these other folks take all our money and have 3 houses and we still outside and renting, okay?
Yes, sir.
They got 3 houses and 5 boats. We barely in a house.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. My lines are lighting up.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm so inspired, I don't know what to do. If you need to call my office, please do so at 708. Share the video. If you're watching this video, I want everyone watching the video to share the video. Every single person watching the video, share the video and tag someone who needs to listen to the video, people. So listen, we don't share. I'm on Facebook, right? Anonymous, I'll call you in 1 second. Tiana, give me 1 second. Benjamin, you hold for sure. We don't share. I go on Facebook, I share. I come on the radio, I share. People come to my office, I share. People call my office, I share. Listen, folk, all the best inventions in the world can be found in one place. All the best inventions in the world are in the graveyard because we don't share. And because we don't write down our ideas and we don't record our thoughts. I record these things so if something happens to me tomorrow, there's a catalog of this. There's a history of this. I can live on through this. You can learn through this. We must learn to share. So share the video. If you're listening and you get something from it, share it. And tag someone and call a friend and say, listen to this. Because how many of us know someone who's living in a house right now and you have a $300,000 mortgage and you and your wife used to both make $70,000, $80,000, $100,000 each. And now what was a $150,000, $200,000 household is a $120,000 household and the property taxes have gone through the roof and the kids are out of the house and you got a car note and you have student loan debt and you're sitting in this big pretty house and you're suffering. Oh, yeah. You're suffering. There's no honor in suffering. Another great poet. Espoused. She said, listen, and I'm not going to give you the whole story. She said, listen, talking to a little grandchild. Or she was the child, and her grandmother was talking to her when she was a child, one of our great poets. She said, listen to her, this great poet. Her grandmother did. She said, you can always protest. There's nothing wrong with the protest. But I don't want to ever, I don't want to ever hear you complain. People, it's okay to be a champion. It's okay to be a warrior. But there's a great difference between being a champion and being a warrior and being a sufferer. And too many of us, black and brown and poor people, white folk alike, black, brown, and poor people, we are not being warriors. We are not being strong. What we are being are sufferers. It's not being strong, staying in a relationship that's not feeding you. That's not strength. That's suffering oftentimes. It's not being strong, taking care of a property that you're losing money on and stressed out and can't take care of you. That's not being strong. That's suffering. So I need you to get out of that suffering spirit. Get into a warrior spirit. A strategic default sometimes is necessary. It's the American way. It's the American way. If you need to talk to me, you have a loved one in the hospital, whatever, 708-991-7268 is 708-991-7268. If you're watching, share the video. Tiana, Benjamin. I got to go to Benjamin. Real quick, Benjamin. You got like 1 minute.
Hey, no problem. Can you hear me, Ernest?
I can hear you fine.
Oh, nothing, man. I love that thing you did with the, when I hold them with the Kenny Rogers.
Yes,
I love
sir.
it.
I appreciate it.
Back to memories from 1982. I want to thank you for that. I hope you're having a good afternoon.
Yes, sir.
And I just like what you just said. What you just said about you got people that may be looking good but may not be doing good, and also people that may be poor, look poor, but actually got it right quick. I know a guy right now, Ernest, that's a billionaire, not a millionaire, multimillionaire, but he's doing good. He has 3 used cars and 2 old buildings that's paid for, but he's not in debt. He don't owe nobody nothing. But people look at him and say, man, he's driving old raggedy cars, but he got money in his pocket. He can afford to get it if he wants to. And you got some people, what they call it, fake it till you make it.
Right.
You got some people with new cars, new houses, and got a pot to piss in or a window to throw out of. So I want to appreciate you so much for what you do to me. You really made us laugh. You really made us smile. But you also taught us something, too. So thank you very much.
I appreciate it, sir.
All right.
All right. Let me see. I don't know if you, Benjamin. Oh, I just cut someone off. Let's see if we can hear the next caller. Tiana. I'm sorry. Tiana.
No. Good afternoon. Thank you for this. Thank you for this topic. I actually experienced this week and made a decision to not pay a certain credit card I had. The credit card limit was $1,500. I got it behind a couple months. Let's just say over a year's time, it's $1,500. Now it's up to $1,800. So when they called me, I said, well, can you tell me how much money have I given you in a year's time? Because every time you guys call me, I'm making this minimum $80 payment. So the guy was like, sure. Well, ma'am, you've paid $800 from last September till now. I say, so mathematically speaking, it doesn't make any sense to pay you. If I've given you $800, my bill is $1,500, and I owe you $1,700 today.
It's going up.
I'm going to make the decision that I'm not going to pay you. So what I'm going to do is take that monthly payment that I've been making, I'm going to save it, and I'll call you in 9 months and settle. So you're right. People have to really take the time out to look at the numbers. Looking at the numbers will help you understand if you're making a wise decision to do the right thing with your money. And the last thing I have to say, I've been a real estate agent since 2004, and the very first thing our real estate teacher taught us in class was to never fall in love with the brick. You're right. You got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them. You got to know when to run and when to walk. And that's my comment.
I appreciate that. Great call. Great call. Anonymous, how are you on line 1? We have Anonymous on the line. Can you hear the callers on Facebook? Can someone tell me, can you hear the caller? Very good. You're on the air.
Yes, I want to say thank you so much. I do listen to you while I'm at work. I just wanted to share my testimony and blessing to the Kenny Rogers song, which is one of the only country songs I know by him, somewhat all the words. Went through some hardship. I'm the oldest. I'm the only girl. I have one brother deceased, one brother that's doing 17 to life, and a very ill mom.
Right.
All of her financial situations have lied on me because I am the oldest.
Okay.
With that being said, I let a car go back last year because I owed almost $19,000 on it. Did not realize when my other car had went out what they flipped into the new car. Right. They wow you and woo you with all those rebates off of it, but what they don't tell you is all the high interest rates sometimes that is included into those cars when you go from a bad car into another new car, which ended up being a bad car anyway.
Right.
The car I sent back lost its value, so there was no way in the world.
Hold 1 second. Hold 1 second, because I have you. I'm streaming on Facebook, and I wanted people to hear the caller, so I don't want to hold them on, but I don't want to cut you off. And so they can't hear the caller, so I'm trying to interject and just share what you're sharing. And essentially what the young lady is sharing is that she purchased a vehicle, right? And then there's a high interest rate, right?
Yep.
So go ahead really quick because I only have like 2 more minutes left in the show.
And so what I ended up doing is letting the car go back. My credit score took a 50-point hit.
Yep.
And I just want your listeners to know that as of right now, I should be closing on my new home as of next week. Since I've done that, I have made arrangements. I made a less payment than what I would have paid if I paid the car out. And on top of that, even with a repo on my credit, I've not only been able to qualify for a home, but my credit score has increased.
Man,
so I went from a low 600 to a 630.
You're a bad sister. This sister's something else. Listen, I'm going to have the feds. You know the feds are going to be calling Attorney Fenton at some point, right? They're going to be like, this guy shares way too much information. He's telling poor folk how to get rich. He's teaching poor folk the rich man's game because rich people negotiate debt. Poor folk just pay debt until the debt breaks their back. Poor folk take debt to the grave, and after poor folk die, the debt collectors follow them into the grave. They get out of the grave, and then they follow their heirs. That's what happens to us. But rich folk, don't happen to them quite like that. What this young lady said was, and listen, she let the car go. She strategically defaulted on a vehicle, and her credit took a hit. And then, and not too long after that, let's just say, I don't know what the time frame, but let's just say a year, because I know if there's a repossession, most lenders won't give you a loan within 12 months or maybe more of a repossession. But sometime thereafter, she recovered her credit enough to qualify for a loan, and she's about to close on her home. But imagine if she would have just held on to this car, this tugboat, her ship may have sunk. People, I'm running out of time. They're cutting me off. Call my office. Share the 708-991-7268, a strategic default. 708-991-7268. I am attorney Ernest B. Fenton. Until next time, people, I say to thee, peace.
You've learned. Until next week, be great, y'all.